Pat Licari was a vaulter at Washington State University, and he has now been coaching at University of Washington for 10 years, about 10 years. Had great success, one of truly our great young coaches in this country. And Pat is going to talk a little bit about what he wants to follow up from Tom's presentation and then take it a few steps further. Pat Licari.
So, yeah, I've been at Washington for, I guess, almost 10 years now. I was at Washington State. Rick Sloan was my coach there. And I spent 2 years at a junior college before I went to Washington State, where I was coached by Rick Baggett, who's now in the Portland, Oregon area. So that was my background. Out of college, I spent 5 years coaching as a head coach at a junior college, and then have been at Washington now for the last 10 years. So basically, I first want to say that Tom did a great job with plant and takeoff and running mechanics, but I wanted to just kind of, since it is what we spend 75 or more % of our time dealing with, the run, the approach, plant and takeoff, I wanted to just show a couple of things, my ideas, and a couple drills that we do, and then get into what I'm actually going to be covering, and that is what happens after you leave the ground. So, let's see. See if I can navigate through here. So my PowerPoint here is basically the whole vault. Let me move here and see if I can find a video clip to illustrate a point. Okay. Is that going to show? Yeah. Okay. So a couple things I wanted to talk to you guys about with the plant and takeoff and pole carry. First of all, I believe 100% in what Tom was saying about pole carry. We also try to keep our left hand, or if you're a right-hander, under the pole, support the pole instead of hold the pole. You'll find that any athlete who ends up with a high elbow or holding the pole in this way is going to rotate their forearm to plant the pole, and that causes, a lot of hooking action at the plant, which leads to a lot of other bad things that you know about. So pivoting the pole on the front hand, so that front hand stays under the pole and stays relaxed, not grabbing onto the pole. So that's another thing too, is to keep that hand relaxed and open and just let it rest on the thumb. From there, there's a couple of different ways to go at it with the backhand. First of all, let me get that longer pole. The other thing I wanted to point out that I'm looking for when we're talking about the pole carry and the pole drop leading into the plant, I'm looking to see that the pole tip is always moving down towards the plant. It should never stop moving. So for that reason, I generally have my female vaulters starting their pole drop about 3 lefts out from the box for a right-hander, and the guys usually 4, one more step, because they're bringing a little more speed, and that's time that those steps take, and we're trying to let just gravity basically carry that pole tip right into the plant action. And so we're looking for the pole tip. Once it starts to make its drop, if you were to just focus on the pole tip, it should just continue to move right down into the plant and take off without hesitating. So like I said, usually 3 steps out for the girls and about 4 for the guys, but I've got some guys who start that pole drop a little bit later, some girls who start a little bit earlier. So basically, when they start, can I do this? Almost. When they start their approach, their pole's pretty vertical. As soon as they take that first step, it drops down into a position that the pole's weightless, so you're basically running into the pole. Not quite as high as it was when you started, a little bit lower. But from that position, it's relatively still, no drop yet, until they get to that point in their approach. And of course, lots and lots of pole runs and practice approach runs to get the timing of when to start that pole drop. I've used lots of different ways for athletes to remember when to start the pole drop. Some of my athletes count, and they'll count down, and when they hit that number, the pole drop begins. Some of my athletes just can't count. They just can't do it. It slows everything down. They're thinking too much, and it just grinds everything to a halt. So some just have a feel for when to start that pole drop, but generally it's 4 lefts out for the guys and 3 for the girls, and somewhere in there. So from there, they're running into the pole. It's weightless. It's at an angle probably about like this, and then they start that pole drop. And when they start that pole drop into the plant, pole tip right through the palm tree should just keep moving right into plant. And so if you just sit back and you watch the pole, now I know this. You can see his pole. If you see that pole pivoting in the middle, it's just moving right into the plant. Let's see if I can find a. It's always good to look at the vault from different angles. Oh shoot! Okay, I'm not seeing it on my. Okay, so here's a shot of Bubka from the front. But you see that pole tip coming at you, and it doesn't stop moving. Once he starts that pole drop, and Bubka starts his pole drop about 4 lefts out, the pole tip just keeps moving right into the plant. Also, too, it's good to see at this angle how close the hands stay when he makes his plant. Real close to the body. Doesn't get out of the way at all. Which leads me into my next point. In order for that pole tip to stay close to the body, the shoulder rolls back while the pole comes by your body. The pole plant basically is just an extension of, it's as if you're using your arms to run without a pole. When your right arm goes back is the time that your right hand is going to flip over and get to this position Tom talked about. Hopefully, when you come down on your right foot, right here, some are at least as high as your ear or even a little bit higher. So, when your right shoulder goes back, that's the time where the right hand is flipped over. So that's why yesterday I said that we either work on being quicker with that movement or making sure that we initiate it a little bit early. Some of the Russian vaulters, you see this style a lot. Markov does it here. Most of the plant action occurs in the last 2 steps. So left, right, left. But a lot of the Russians, you'll see, as they come into that left, right, left, their hand starts to move up. So they won't let the hand settle back down when they come down on that step. It's moving up, so it gets to about the body when they go to make that flip that we talked about that happens when your right leg goes back. So in order to make this move quick, they're already here instead of down here. And then in extreme cases, like Tom said, some people who are carrying the pole low and back are going to be even longer in making this move to here. And what happens when you get long in this move to here, you come down and compress even more, which causes you to be longer into that takeoff. So that's why I believe that the plant mechanics have everything to do with why you see athletes under, why you see their last couple steps long, why it's slow, all those bad things that you hear about. usually has a very, very closely related to what's going on with the plant. So there's a couple ways to do it. The Russian technique here, you see, as they're coming from their right foot to their left foot, the right hand is moving up so that their movement to flip is from here to here. It's really short, which keeps this short and allows for that penultimate style step instead of a long stride, which you can press on and then take a long step into takeoff. So, but the problem with making this move is you need to have a relaxed, open backhand to do this. Some of my athletes, well, probably at least 50% of my athletes use sticky on their grip, and my best athlete, Brad Walker, he'll hold the pole. He doesn't like to have his hand open. He basically, like Bubka did, and Bubka had amazing flexibility in his wrist to be able to hold some of the move positions he gets into with his hands. You know, his wrists were very flexible. But anyways, some athletes will like that use some sticky grip, or maybe not even use sticky grip, like to have that pole tight in their backhand, which is fine. Always loosen the front hand, but tight in the backhand's fine. But it won't allow for that movement that you see, that pre-move that Markov makes here. You see how he's moving up as he comes down onto his left. So he's already in the planting motion when he comes down on that left foot for the left, right, left. Some other examples. Here's Isabaeva. You see, she's really pronounced with that movement. Here she is coming into that second to last left. You see that movement? That hand is, by the time she contacts down on that left foot, her right hand is already up to her body and close up to her armpit. So her move from her left to right is going to can be short, because remember, while you're rolling your hands over, that's how long that step is going to be. So if you initiate this, if you come down on the left and your hands are low and back, and you start really late, that step's going to be really long, because you have to get to here in order to be in conjunction with your legs and arms. So you can see here, Isabaeva comes in, and as she steps to her left foot, that left hand is moving up. But you'll also notice that with Markov and with Isabaeva, and there's several others I can show you, their backhand, even though she uses the sticky black tape, she keeps her backhand open. When she goes to turn the pole over, she'll go ahead and grab the pole and take advantage of that sticky grip, but she'll carry the pole with a relaxed, open backhand. So I just wanted to point out that there are limitations to having that pre-movement of moving the hands up into the plant. If you are holding the pole tight, it won't allow you to make that move. So where to go if somebody's holding the pole tight like that? So with Brad, for example, what we've been doing is trying to be quicker with that move, and making sure that right when he's contacting the ground on his left, he's being very quick with that move to here, because his hand is in a position that won't allow him to make that earlier move with the pole up towards his body to keep that short. He's going to have to be, right when he hits and he turns open, he needs to be quick and get it to here to keep that step short so he doesn't compress and go long into his last step. And you will see that without fail, any of these athletes that have that movement, that early movement up into the plant like that, they're going to have that short penultimate style step onto the right foot, and usually a great takeoff. So, looking to make sure that the pole's always drop. That once you decide how many steps away you're going to start that pole drop, you want to watch the pole. Try not to look at the athlete, just watch the pole and see that the pole's moving constantly right down into the plant and take off. It doesn't stop, hesitate, and drop. It keeps moving right down in. And then, like I said, because the hands are connected to the feet, when you're stepping, when you're opening up, that's when flipping happens. So whether you make an early move here or you make a fast move right when you hit the left, that's going to dictate what you can do with those last 2 steps. Yeah.
In that bottom left picture of Buka there, you see that his shoulders are turned quite a bit. Do you think that has
That's because he holds the pole tight. Exactly. Buka would glue his hand to the pole basically, and it limited what he could do. But you'll see, that's why you look at Buka and you look at a lot of the other Russian, Tarasovs and all those other Russian vaulters. They had that little pre-move, but they had their hand open. They weren't holding the pole like Buka, where they had it tight on the pole, which doesn't, flexibility-wise, just won't allow that to happen. But even though Buka is holding it tight and he does rotate a little bit further back, like I showed you with that straight-on shot of his ball, his pole still doesn't get out away from his body. It stays very close. And Buka is the example. With Brad, he's trying to do more like what Buka would do, because he's also holding the pole tight. He's trying to, right when he hits, initiate right away and be quick with that move so that he's not causing that longer last step. Okay, let's see. So just before I move on to my actual after you leave the grounds talk, I want to just show you a couple drills that we do for plant and takeoff to add to all the stuff that Tom did. Okay, we have a series of running drills. All the running mechanics stuff is great. I think that's where it all begins, and then the pole carry. Okay. Picture looks familiar there. This is a drill that we use allows the vaulter to do a lot of repetitions without getting tired of holding the weight of the pole at a slow pace. But it also teaches them where the pole pivots in the middle. So she keeps her left hand high. And here's a chance to practice. You see, she's moving her hands into that left foot, and then finishing with their foot up on the mat, just working on being tall. Hurdle plant drill, is what we call that. Real simple, but just a good place to work on that. And then I just have a series of drills here that we do for plant. Kate's working on, her pole tip should probably be a little bit lower on this, because I also believe that the best place for that pole plant to actually begin is when your pole tip gets to about eye level. So for her to have that pole up quite that high is a little bit too high. But what she's doing is she's basically working on lifting as she goes to her left, and I just call it back and forth. She's just moving back and forth, working on lifting and letting the pole tip continue to drop. So from there we go to a 3-stage plant.
Okay, can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
That drill you just showed, if you had her time with the left foot hitting, with the guys, you said a lot of them be doing clean, or just they're starting to swing.
Mm-hmm. The pole drop in their approach.
The pole drop.
Mm-hmm.
Like with the guys with the Russian Markov, this guy was doing, would you have move your hands and then step down? Just to get it.
Yeah, that's what she was working on in the back and forth drill, was initiating an upward and forward movement with the hands even before you come down on the traditional left, right, left plant. So here you see, very stagey. We don't want to vault like this, but this is just to hit some key points. Here she steps to the left, she lifts, and then when she comes down on the right, she makes that foot quick to here, and then when she comes down on the left, her hand is up high again, reaching high. in the vault, we don't want to get too fixated on positions or staginess, because that's what it's a constant movement. But that's why we won't do this, a ton. But we'll just to remember where the key points are when you come down left, right, left, and where you want to be. And then from there, add it. So here she is. She just is going to chain those movements together, and hopefully, if I were to slow it down and go, she would be hitting those same spots in the same time as when she was doing it in 3 stages. Real simple, just working on the timing of the plant. And then we move through what Tom was doing with marching plants, and then speeding it up until we're going full speed. I'm always coming up with crazy drills we don't really use some of these drills are a little bit different, and we don't use them on a daily basis. But I break them out when I need something to try to get a person to do the things I want them to do. I came up with this drill, call it a 2-mat drill. You see there's two little cutouts of AstroTurf there on the grass, and that gives her some landmarks. So as she steps onto that with her left foot, she's down, and then she's back up onto the second mat. And it works pretty well to get the plant timing. And then what we can do is we can back up and bring it faster and faster. Once again, you see the pole tip, once it starts dropping, it keeps dropping, doesn't stop. Okay. I've gone back and forth about sliding boxes. I'm back on sliding boxes. As long as the athlete, and you see Carly's really slowing down when she comes in, and that's more of a personal thing for her. Sliding box, I think, is a good drill to teach them to be aggressive if they don't push the sliding box with their bottom arm. They need to learn to get their hands up high, jump up, and feel that they're moving the box with their whole body, and just like we would want to see them vault, not blocking with that bottom arm. And I think that sliding box, the reason why I was off sliding box for a little while is the tendency was to want to push the sliding box with their bottom arm and to make it move. But as long as they get their hands up and they move the box with their body, then I think it's good.
If you saw her do that right there, what would you cue her? What terms or words might you use after watching that one right there?
Well, Carly's got all kinds of things going on with, when she drops her pole, she gets tense, and like Tom was saying, and she needs to learn to relax and just let the pole tip drop. You see that causes some issues. You see where she's slowing down there. What I've done, that little gadget you see on the ground there is a tendo machine that you use in the weight room to measure the bar speed. So I've got it hooked up to the box, and she's trying to move the box as fast as she can with the so the tendo measures how fast the box moves when she leaves the ground. And
Can you move it at 1?
What's that?
Can she make it move at 1?
At 1 what?
Or how fast is the box moving?
I find it's probably about 1 meter per second slower than what she's actually going. Because, you know, once you hit that box, things slow down pretty drastically. But she's got it. She's running. You can see she's running on the sports turf in flats. But she's trying to get to 5 meters per second right now of the box movings. And I've never done this before or seen anybody else do it before, so I don't really know what's good. All I know is I'm trying to make the box go faster. No, I haven't. Carly, I'm trying to get her to be more aggressive at the end of the approach, and so I want to put a number on it and challenge her to make the box move faster.
She's dropping her head at takeoff.
Yeah.
As she becomes more accustomed to hitting the box, and she'll be able to look through her bottom hand.
That's what I want to see. All of the same. I want to see all the same good things that you would see on a vault. Otherwise, I'll probably be off sliding box again. But my biggest problem with the sliding box in the past was that I saw a lot of athletes trying to push this box with their bottom arm, which to me didn't really relate to what we were trying to do with the vault. So, but now, you know, she's doing a pretty good job of letting her hands go, getting her hands up high and letting them go back as she jumps up off the ground. So yeah, she's kind of burying her head and she's really slowing down into the box, but that's something she does when she vaults, so that's why it's hooked up to the tender to try to challenge her to not slow down and make that box move faster. So more gadget, just a very, very gadgety deal, but it's not a regular part of my training program. Another trick I use to get the athletes who just, for whatever you do, now here's a guy who holds the pole with a tight backhand, so we're trying to make that move quick, because he can't move it early, he can't pre-lift the pole into his left foot. So we're trying to make it quick, but even though he'd do everything well and still would want to step, you know, perceptually would want to be at a certain point. So I put down that hurdle, basically it's the foam top that you put on hurdles when people are learning, and you'll see it, I've taken that foam and I've done all kinds of different things with it because it's there, and that's what I had to use. So basically here he's just using that to get his foot down and not make that step long. You probably have seen this drill before. Just a trick to get an athlete to not take that extra long step and put that foot down underneath them.
Can you slow that down for a sec?
I think so.
Hit the slow button.
That good?
Thank you.
Okay. Another thing that we do every day as part of our warm-up routine, and we do a lot early on, is one-hander drills. And I like it just because it takes out all of the planting action. It really just focuses on what, like Tom said, what you do on that last step. So hopefully, I'd like to see Brad carrying the pole. I really would like to see athletes, when they do the one-hander, get in a position that they would be in when they come off their right to their left. So I would want to have it more here, alongside their head, right by their ear. And from there, you can just practice that last step and really take all of the planting mechanics out of it and just work on that last step into takeoff and stretching out. Another thing that Brad's kind of cheating here and putting his hand on the pole, I like to have him just keep that hand away from the pole and just everything from the top arm. Okay, so that's something we do. Now this is a little bit, this is kind of taking it to another level. I'll do this with somebody who is having a hard time understanding that when you leave the ground, you want to feel the pressure on your top hand, that your vault, even though the pole bends, you're not bending the pole with your bottom arm. So I'll give them a little help with the pole bending on a one-hander.
Yes.
Real light pole, maybe holding a foot higher than they do when they're regular one-handers, and kind of maybe gradually going a little bit higher. But just helping the pole in, and it's bending a little bit for them, getting the idea that the vault is from the top hand at the beginning. Even though the pole bends, you're not bending the pole with your bottom arm.
Can you slow that one down too, please?
Yeah. And she's way under, all kinds of bad things. Probably could have got a better video for you, but that's just a different kind of drill there. Yeah, three left, 6 total steps at the most. Although I have heard that I think Petrov will do that. They'll do that holding almost as high as you would on a full approach. Which I'm not there yet, but I just want them to feel a little bend just from the top hand. I guess they'll hold pretty high. Okay. Okay, the foam, I'm using the foam again. I'll put it, I'll kind of figure out where that point is above the runway just to get them to make that last extension and reach up. You'll find, you'll get athletes who make a good plant move and they're on time, but they feel like this is the top of their plant right here, that they're not getting the idea of reaching all the way up. So basically I'll stick that foam up over the top of the runway and encourage them to reach up as high as they can. You see Stephanie, the thing that I've been trying to get her to not do is get out here in front with her hands and make her plant out here. I want to try to have it go right alongside it. And that's the other thing with the plant, as well as being close to the body. As you look at it from the front, it should also be close to the body, this plane too. You don't want to get out here, and that's something that Brad had a wider grip earlier on, and so when he made his plant, when it was wider, when he moved this left hand way out in front, his right hand was in the right spot, and both of his hands would hit the box at the same time, like you'd want. But now that his grip is a little bit more narrow, we've made it a little bit more narrow, he still gets that left hand out in front, but now his right hand is out here in front, and it's causing him to be a little bit long in that last step. So trying to move the hand right alongside the body. Okay, let's see. Okay, so I guess those are just some of the ideas I wanted to give you about plant takeoff, to add to what Tom was saying about it, and so now I'll move on to after you leave the ground. Of course, like we heard earlier, if you don't do things well at the plant and takeoff, there's a really good chance that you are not going to have any luck with what happens after plant and takeoff with your swing and getting upside down and going as high as you want to go. Which, back that up, if you don't carry the pole right and run properly, chances are you're not going to have a very good chance of planting and taking off properly. So you need to make sure that you're carrying the pole right, running right, and then planting and taking off right to take that approach run to the takeoff. But after that, this is the things that I'm looking for when they leave the ground. Now, you'll see lots of different styles when it comes to the actions that happen after you leave the ground. What I'm going to tell you, what I'm going to go through here, and the points I'm going to make is just what I feel would be the ideal model after you leave the ground and what you're looking for in the air. But there are a lot of people who do things differently. You know, some people more of a tuck and shoot. I'm gonna emphasize swinging. But there's been a lot of high vaults done different ways with little bit different styles once you leave the ground. Okay, so first thing that we want to make sure to have is that top hand needs to be up high. If it's not high, you won't feel, the first place that you feel the pressure of the box won't be on the top hand. It more likely will be on the bottom hand, which will cause you to block. So in order for the vault to happen initially from the top hand, the top hand needs to be up high and early, so that when you hit that back of the box, that's where you feel the vault is on the top hand, more so than on the bottom hand. We want to be initially off the ground. We don't want to be too strong with the left arm, but more up high with the right hand. Like you saw a lot of the drills that Tom was doing, their left hand was not involved at all. Everything was focused on what the right hand was doing. But from there, one of the cues I'll use is trying to get the bottom arm bicep to the ear, here. So, and that's just accentuating the follow-through of that plant and takeoff into a fully stretched position, so we can get that elastic effect as we swing out of that. Okay? Like I said, so driving the chest, not allowing that bottom arm to stop the chest from moving. What happens when you stop the chest from moving forward at plant? Something has to go forward. You can't just come in and not move forward with all the speed that you've generated on the runway. You want your upper body to be moving forward. And if you stop your upper body, your lower body will move forward. And that's a lot of times when you see an athlete drop their knee. It's not because, the problem's not that they drop their knee, the problem is that something else is going on, usually when you see a knee drop. So that would be one of the causes for a right knee to drop, and that would be stopping the chest, and that athlete then tries to slow down his lower body from moving forward by dropping his knee, or her knee. Okay. So from there, as well as the trail leg moving forward, we're trying, the chest moving forward, the trail leg is going to move back as far as possible, and hopefully not bend up, hopefully stay straight. So the chest is forward and the trail leg's back, which creates that C position, that stretched out position. Okay, so that kind of basically is just summing up what happened. That is just all of that action is a good follow through from a good plant and takeoff. Not blocking out, keeping the chest moving forward and staying as long as possible. But from here, I said that at the plant and takeoff, you want to feel the vault, you want to feel the pressure of the box on the top arm. Now, I teach them to separate from the pole. You want to move as far into the pole as you can at plant and takeoff. You want to get close to the pole, and then from there, like Brad's doing up there in the top left, he's moving into the pole as far as possible. But right after that, you have that stretch. Then I want them to separate, and it begins with straightening back out that left arm, which then stops the chest. And then the energy is transferred to the lower body. And the lower body accelerates and moves through quickly. And that's why I think it's really important that even though you're teaching them to really follow through fully and get in a good position, you never want to use words like hold that position or wait or any. That position sometimes looks like an athlete's holding it, but it's a good follow through, and as soon as you're fully stretched, and I say as soon as the bicep gets to your ear, then you want to get it away. You want to create separation, starting with the left arm and then moving with the top arm as well.
Hey Pat,
It's okay.
when you talk about the separation,
Yeah.
can you talk specifically, maybe you just can't touch on how you activate that movement? Is it
Like I said, I think that it starts by the left arm is really passive at plant and takeoff, and then it comes back out and it stops the chest, which accelerates the lower body, and then then you continue to move your hands forward.
So would you say that initial movement is more of a, say, military press than, say, a row, or?
Yeah, well, at first it pushes out, but at the same time the hands are moving, it's almost together, but they're moving down as well. Just creating space, whereas at the plant and takeoff, you're trying to get into the pole as far as possible. It's like you're trying to reach the pole, but then after you're trying to move back away from it. So,
Hey, Pat.
yeah, I'd say the first thing, it's almost as if you start by straightening that left arm, but at the same time there's down pressure.
Something that my son used to do, I don't know where he got it from, he says, when he puts food on the pole, he tells everybody to draw big circles. Draw a big circle here, draw a big circle with your foot.
That's awesome. I think whatever kind of cues it, because there's, like I said, sometimes I'll get the left bicep to the ear to accentuate that, but then get it away from you. Take it to your ear and then move it away right away. Yeah.
Do you put any pressure on your left at all through the as you're leaving the ground, as your foot's clearing off the ground, and as your top hand, as the pole's hitting the box? Do you teach any pressure into your left? If so, where?
That's a real kind of yes. Yeah, it stays up high hopefully. But then you'll see some athletes who very successfully have no left arm whatsoever. You know, early, like some Budka vaults early on, where there's nothing here, the left arm. Then he cranks it back out. But later in his career, he moved to still not blocking, but having it up high, and that kind of goes along with what Tom said. That left arm will aid in moving the pole to vertical if you keep it up high, up over your head. Not blocking out and stopping your chest from moving forward, but keeping it up high.
You're not talking about giving the pole a punch, but rather just...
I think it's really important that your hands meet the box at the same time. That the right hand is up high and extended at the same time as, and it's usually the right hand that's not going to be extended. Because the first thing, when an athlete's not getting their plant up very well with their top arm, they're going to want to block, you'll see them block out to try not to lose their hips and get sucked under.
So it's not like you're saying you kind of want the left hand to follow the top hand. Up.
Yeah, they should work together back. They're both high, but they're both as elastic as possible. Okay. Okay, so the arm movement after you leave the ground is happening at the same time that you're taking the trail leg and swinging it through. You can't separate those two things. It's not as if the arms move and then you swing the trail leg. It's moved. It happens together. Sometimes you might be, at certain points, you might be emphasizing this one or another with an athlete, but ultimately your hope that those two things happen together. That the arms are moving forward and out, and the leg is swinging through at the same time. And so at that point, I'm hoping that they continue to keep the pole as far away from their body as possible and keep their trail leg as long as possible and swing until they get to that position that you see Tarasov at the top of the pole, where his hands his feet are above the top of his pole. And at that point, the left arm, eventually, when you start to get past, I'd say, parallel with the ground, the left arm will start to release its pressure a little bit, but you want to keep the arms pretty long still. See Tarasov even in that position where he's all the way feet above the top of the pole. His left arm is still out there pretty good. So that's what we're doing there. And you see down here in the bottom right, huge space that Derek's creating with his arms. Trail leg is staying relatively straight. So I try to get them to, again, like with the plant, there's certain landmarks we're trying to get to before we move to the next step, but it's all going to happen, it's all going to be one movement when it's all done. So the chest drive and swing is, in the way I look at it, is one movement that doesn't end until you get to a point where your feet are above the top of the pole. From there, we move into the next point where we let the left arm completely release its pressure, and we try to line up and get as close as we can, because all this time we were trying to get as far away from the pole and behind the pole as we could. The next phase, we're going to try to get as close as the pole as we can when it comes back. So just far away from the body. All right, what do we got here? This is a pretty good video. This was a pretty good jump. So you can see here, this is just awesome. His hands meet the box at the same time, they go back, and then immediately that stretch reflex, he takes advantage of it. There's no waiting or holding anything at the bottom of that vault. As soon as those arms stretch out, the first move he makes is separates with his arms, and at the same time the trail leg is swinging through. And you'll see too that he is not going to, he's going to keep pressure on those arms, and he's going to keep that trail leg long until he gets up on top of the pole, until he gets those feet up over the top of the pole. The whole time that he's trying to keep the pole loaded and not allow it to release its energy, and he's doing that with his arms, and that allows the pole to continue to roll over and not come back until he has a chance to get back behind it. At the same time, he's trying to swing that trail leg as fast as possible to get upside down to that point, trying to get ahead of the pole and not fall behind. And he does a really good job of it. So, with that, you always look back at that's what we're looking for. Now that shows that left arm is up pretty high, but you can see that it's not locked out or blocking. He's moving the pole up, and then immediately arms are pushed back out. He's moving back away from the pole with his chest, and the trail leg swings through as a result real fast and just keeps pretty straight until he gets to the top of the pole right there. So when you see a lot of vaulters unable to go vertical and get upside down, a lot of it has to do with the fact that they are not getting behind the pole while it's still bent. Because he's created all this space here behind the pole, most of his body, the only thing in front of the pole right now is the lower half of his lower leg, from his mid-shin down. Everything else is behind the pole. So now when it straightens and he makes his move to go up the pole, he can get behind the pole and stay in a straight line and go vertical. As opposed to another athlete who's let that space break down. Now there's nowhere to go behind the pole. There's no space to get behind the pole. So you'll see that athletes, most of their body will be in front of the pole, which when the pole straightens results in them flagging off of it. So you can see here that because he was behind the pole really well, right before it started to release its energy, he's able to really line up with it and get behind it. Okay. I guess you don't really need to, that was kind of